Hey, you may know this. You probably would infer this. You'd think this. There's a lot of ways to die in the Grand Canyon. Yeah. Turns out there's a lot of ways to die. In fact, a gentleman by the name of Michael Gidgelieri wrote a book called Over the Edge, Death in the Grand Canyon. And he goes back all the way to 1870, and he chronicles 700 different deaths that have happened in the Grand Canyon. And many of them, they're the kind of thing you'd expect. You can starve there, you can get too cold, you can get too hot, heat exhaustion, heat stroke, planes crash into it. There's been floods that have killed people. But he seems to think that one of the most alarming things is how many people die just from doing things that signs clearly said don't do that. And yet because people, they don't want to pay attention to the signs, they just go ahead and do it. Like one 18-year-old young woman, she wanted to get this selfie out on this ledge, clearly marked, don't walk out on this ledge, goes to take the selfie, falls to her death. Another 38-year-old father is teasing his daughter, and he's jumping up and down on a guardrail on the wrong side, saying, hey, isn't this funny? Isn't this kind of scary? Ends up falling to his death. Not trying to be humorous about it. I'm just trying to make a point this morning that clearly there's lots of ways to be foolish. We're talking about wisdom and foolishness today. We've been in the book of Ecclesiastes. This is one of the Bible wisdom books, and we've been talking about this idea of being addicted to success. One of the major contributors to this book, super rich, super successful, super wise, has all this wisdom to share with us, and yet in his very own life, even though he started super wise, it really didn't matter how wise he started. You can start really, really wise. I know we got a lot of smart people up in here. Man, you can be smart, you can be wise, but you gotta keep doing wisdom, and that's what he doesn't do. So we're gonna take a look at this major contributor, King Solomon today. I heard Andy Stanley say this recently. He said, you are the common denominator for all your bad decisions. I want you to think about that with me for a second, because I was thinking about that this week. Okay, what are we saying there? Hey, every decision you've had that is really regrettable. Now, I'm not talking about some traumatic thing that just happened to you. I'm talking about things you actually, you had a voice in. You thought this through, all right? You were on the advisory board for whether or not that decision was gonna be made. You and you and you and you. You all took a vote, and you were like, this is a good idea. And now you look back at that, and you're like, ugh. How did I ever vote for that? How did I think that would be a good idea? I mean, you've seen this in how you've dealt with money, how you've dealt with relationships, how you've dealt with your health. You're like, this is exactly the answer. And then you dive in, and later on you're like, oh, what a horrible decision. I can't believe that happened. Now here's the bad news. You are also on the advisory board for all the rest of your decisions in life. Like, you're gonna be there also. And you could be like, well, Carter, I've grown in wisdom since then. Well, yeah, but weren't there some times where you already thought you'd grown in wisdom since then? And you still made those decisions. So we are the common denominator for all of our bad decisions. So that should give us a little bit of humility and a little bit of sobriety when we think about making wise decisions. In this book of Ecclesiastes, we've been talking a lot about this Hebrew word, hevel. And really what it means, it's smoke, it's fog, it's mist that somehow makes things fuzzy. And so the writer keeps saying, everything is meaningless, everything is meaningless. He doesn't mean it's actually meaningless. He means it looks meaningless from here down on earth. Of course, from God's perspective, it makes sense, but down here, it looks meaningless. He's saying it's hard to grasp things. It's hard to make sense sometimes of injustices. It seems like things should go one way, and then they don't go that way, and that's this word hevel. That's foggy, that's confusing, that feels like I'm trying to grab smoke. He's talking all about hevel, and one of the things hevel does, this fog does, is it keeps us from seeing the end from the beginning. It keeps us from seeing what wisdom would be. Even when we want to do wisdom, we still are kept from seeing what wisdom would be. Now, to be sure, sometimes we just don't have good information. Maybe we didn't have the right information, and so we make a wrong decision. That's part of it. There's also a reality, though, that because we live on a fallen planet and we sin, let's talk about what sin is again real quick. Sin is every time we hurt ourselves, hurt others, or hurt God. That's not the most technical decision or way to describe it, but it's a good way to understand it. When you hurt people, when you hurt God, or even when you do things that are against God's commands that hurt yourself, that is sin. And that messes up our ability to make wise choices. And here's how we know. Because I'm willing to bet that for most of us in this room, you've made decisions that you knew were bad decisions. And you're like, I'm gonna make it anyway. Like you knew you shouldn't go into debt. You knew you shouldn't spend that money. There was a little trigger inside saying, this is dumb, this is dumb, this is dumb, this is dumb. And you're like, shut up, put your hand down, we're doing it. And so you went and did it. Maybe there's relationships that you knew this is the wrong way to go, man. I should not be going this way. And yet because of that thing inside you that is even rebellious against God's ways, you just went ahead and did it. You made the wrong decision. And so that also messes with our ability to make good decisions. That's why I'm gonna submit to you today, we need God's wisdom to see through the fog, and we need it every day. We need God's wisdom to see through the fog, and we need it every day. We all just need to be sober about our own need for wisdom, even though the hevel of life makes wisdom elusive. And this was a reality for the most famous, at the time, the most powerful person on earth. And he had ginormous gifts of wisdom, but he still ended up making dramatically wrong choices that hurt him considerably. Let's talk about him. This is King Solomon. Some of you may know some Bible history, some of you don't, that's okay. He was the son of King David, okay? David was like the first good king in the history of Israel. And Solomon is inheriting a lot of great stuff. So I want you, let's go there. Let's go to the night. He is a young man, and he's now the new king, okay? And his dad has done so much right. His dad's kind of like this public hero, but really his dad positioned him well. Now a lot of the battles are already done. He's sitting on mountains of money, a plan to build a temple for the living God. You know, he's gonna build his own palace. He's got peace surrounding him. And he still says, as a young man, God appears to him. This is a big deal. God doesn't just appear to people most of the time. God appears to him. He says, hey, Solomon, I'll give you whatever you want. That sounds like a pretty good deal, right? And Solomon wisely says, well, what I wanna ask for then is wisdom so that I can rule your people well. And God's like, you hit the jackpot, man. That was the right answer. Now I'm not only gonna give you wisdom, I'm gonna give you all kinds of other stuff besides. Riches and peace and power. So here's Solomon. He's flooded with wisdom. He's got everything he could ever need. He's by every estimation, he is a complete success. Listen to the way 1 Kings 4:29 says it. God gave Solomon very great wisdom and understanding, and knowledge as vast as the sands of the seashore. In fact, his wisdom exceeded that of all the wise men of the East and the wise men of Egypt. Skipping down to verse 34, and the kings from every nation sent their ambassadors to listen to the wisdom of Solomon. Man, people are sending delegates to see, hey, Solomon, we gotta hear what you're saying, man. We gotta understand. All we're hearing is how amazingly wise you are. We need to know it for ourselves. Even people like the Queen of Sheba. This is a gal, she comes, she visits, she brings her entire entourage, and she's so captivated by the wisdom of God through Solomon that she says, your God has done this. Your God has given you all this wisdom and given you this kingdom. He's given it to you for the sake of your people so that you can show them justice. So here's a woman, she's not even a God follower. She's not even a part of the nation of God's people. And yet she's coming in and she's like, God did this, man. This is God right here. This is huge that the other nations are now recognizing, man, your God is legit. Your God, man, he does stuff. This is blowing our minds. So now he's got peace on all sides. He's leading the most powerful nation on earth at the time. 1 Kings 10:23. So King Solomon became greater than all the kings of the earth in riches, in wisdom. All the earth was seeking the presence of Solomon to hear his wisdom, which God had put in his heart. Now, we need to pause it because I need you to understand just how significant this is. Years ago, 500 years ago, there was a lone man, Abraham. All he had was a wife. He didn't have any kids. And God makes him this outrageous promise. He says, Abraham, even though you're old, I'm gonna do this redonkulous miracle. I'm gonna bring nations from you. I'm gonna bring kings from you. I'm gonna make that people a sign to the rest of the nations of the wisdom of God. Now time has gone by. They went through a season of being slaves. And then God was faithful to lead them out of slavery. They came into their own land. They didn't know how they were ever gonna take that land, but they did. And now they're set up. Now they've got peace on all sides. Now they're so rich that they're building temples and palaces. And all of the promises made to Abraham have come true. Like now, Solomon's feeling this. He's looking back, he's like, wow, that promise that was made to Abraham, like I'm the living embodiment of that promise coming to pass. Everything God said has happened. And I'm wondering if he didn't feel a little bit of the weight of that. Solomon, man, wow, you have a whole lot. And you have a whole lot to lose if you do this wrong, man. Make sure you get this right. Well, unfortunately, he doesn't get it right. Even though he does wisdom for so long, he then turns away his heart from the Lord and begins to do non-wisdom. Let's read about the fall, Solomon's fall together. 1 Kings 11, we'll start in verse 1. Now King Solomon loved many foreign women. Uh-oh. That key word many there, that's not good. Besides Pharaoh's daughter, he married a woman from Moab, Ammon, Edom, Sidon, and from among the Hittites. The Lord had clearly instructed the people of Israel, you must not marry them because they will turn your hearts to their gods. Yet Solomon insisted on loving them anyway. He had 700 wives of royal birth and 300 concubines. Guys, that is 1,000 women. Bro, you can't be man enough for that. I'm just saying. And in fact, they did turn his heart away from the Lord. In Solomon's old age, they turned his heart to worship other gods instead of being completely faithful to the Lord, his God, as his father, David, had been. Let's pause there. Guys, this is a big deal. It's not just that God was gonna be jealous if his people served other gods, okay? God knows, God believes there are no other gods. I'm the only God. But when you worship these other gods that these foreign women are bringing in from their lands, they've got all these gods that are not like probably a God that you would think of. We live in a very pluralistic age where even if you're wanting to say, oh, there's these other spirits and other gods, mostly what people are usually talking about is some kind of God that's a lot like the real God. He's benevolent. He's really forgiving. Often they've kind of made him in their own image. He would do whatever I would do, okay? But it tends to be tame and gentle. These gods are not that way. These gods demand things like child sacrifice and for you to be extremely manipulative and evil. And so it's not just that God is jealous because you're worshiping something that isn't even a God at all, but it's changing who these people are. We become what we worship. And so they're becoming a very different kind of people. And God's mad about it. Kind of the same way, let's just pretend for a second that I'm married. I've been married almost 20 years, but let's just pretend that my wife wanted to also be married to her imaginary friend. Yeah. Well, how many know that'd get weird, right? I'm like, Kenzie, I'm the guy. What are you talking? You're talking to some dude that doesn't even exist. Well, God is a little bit like that. Like, what do you mean you're worshiping these imaginary things? I'm the guy. What are you talking about? And so obviously it hurts God's heart, but it also changes his people. And so God's very angry with Solomon. Verse 9, we're gonna skip down there. You can read about all the idolatry later if you want to, but verse 9, the Lord was very angry with Solomon, for his heart had turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice. And when he says twice, he's saying, twice, dude. Like I appear to most people, not at all. I appeared to you twice. It was a big deal, Solomon, that you're going down this path. He had warned Solomon specifically about worshiping other gods, but Solomon did not listen to the Lord's command. So now the Lord said to him, since you've not kept my covenant and have disobeyed my decrees, I will surely tear the kingdom away from you and give it to one of your servants. Solomon's lack of wisdom is going to cause severe damage, not only to his own life, but for generations to come. See, even though this is the apex, this seems to be in a way a type of fulfillment of a lot of promises. After this, it's all gonna fall apart. After this, the kingdom is gonna be torn in two and people are gonna go from bad to worse. And ultimately, God's gonna get so sick of them because they're mimicking the ways of these false gods, he's gonna kick them out of their own land. And it's gonna take a lot later on for them to ever come back. And they will because God's merciful. But even so, there's generation after generation of disaster because of what Solomon is choosing now. And it's not just the lust, and it's crazy lust that he's dealing with, but it's also the worship of idols. It's not mentioned in this particular text, but another thing that Solomon did was he demanded slaves to build the very temple of God. He used his own people to be slaves to build the temple of God. Now that's all kinds of whack when you think about their story. God's gotta be looking at this and be like, I brought y'all out of slavery. Like that was a big deal. And now you get all these promises, and instead of being thankful, you do the very evil that was perpetrated on you? What are you doing? But Solomon, I don't know, maybe he was just used to people thinking he was all that. Maybe he was used to being very prominent. Maybe he was so trusting in his own wisdom that he took a look at God's wisdom and said, man, I'm already wise in myself. I don't need any more wisdom from God. I'm just gonna go my own way. As great as a leader as he may have been at one time, Solomon failed to lead himself to the source of wisdom, which was God himself. And so let's turn it on us now. Because you might lead stuff, you might be in charge of stuff, you might have made 1,000 right decisions. But are you still looking to the source? Can you lead yourself today, not yesterday, today, to the source? See, wisdom and foolishness, they're a theme in this book of Ecclesiastes. They are something that is happening down here under the sun. And the editor, the person who compiled all of Solomon's wisdom, I believe it's a different person. You might believe it's just Solomon. Either way, someone collects all this and says, I want the future generations to know, but you gotta see what he's doing. He's using Solomon's fall as a case study for what not to do, and he's using Solomon's own wisdom to say it. That's deep and trippy and awesome. That's what he's doing. Ecclesiastes 2:13, let's just see this. Wisdom is in here. And I saw that wisdom excels folly as light excels darkness. The wise man's eyes are in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. Skip down to Ecclesiastes 7:19. Wisdom puts more strength in one wise person than 10 strong men give to a city. Solomon is saying, wisdom is good, yo. Wisdom is powerful. Wisdom can put you way ahead if you will use it. What is wisdom? Wisdom is doing now what we will appreciate having done later. Wisdom is saying, I'm gonna interact with life in such a way that even though it costs me a little bit more now, it's gonna way pay off later. Instead of saying, I'm just gonna interact with life the way I wish life was. No, wisdom says, no, life is this way, and it's ultimately gonna prove to be this way, so that's why I'm going to respond these ways now. Chuck Swindoll said this about wisdom. He said, wisdom is the God-given ability to see life with rare objectivity and to handle life with rare stability. Henry Cloud said this, when truth presents itself, the wise person sees the light, takes it in, and makes adjustments. So if we're wise, we're looking at the corrections that are coming toward us and we say, I'm not just gonna resist it. I'm not gonna just push back against it. I'm gonna make adjustments. That's what wise people do. Are you making adjustments? Are you learning, even though that was like my favorite way, even though it's the way I did it, I'm not gonna do that because it's not wise. God says, I need y'all to continue in wisdom, not just do it once. And see, wisdom shows up. Like wisdom shows up in people. You can tell when people are wise. It shows up in how they talk. It shows up in what they spend their money on. It shows up in how they treat people. It shows up in what they prioritize. I mean, listen, Jesus is the most important thing on earth, but I'm just like, second might be wisdom. You know what I'm saying? Like, is there anything really more important than having wisdom to build a life that is successful? Solomon had a bunch of success and he had a bunch of wisdom, but he couldn't hang on to it because of foolishness. What is foolishness? Foolishness is a destructive force in your and my life, but fools walk in darkness. In the Bible, let me clarify. Foolishness is not just you're a dum-dum. It's not just that you don't understand certain things. Foolishness is not about the mind in the Bible, it's about the will. It is about, I get it. I understand what you're saying. I'm just going to push against it. I'm just not going to do it. Henry Cloud says this about fools. He says, this is a diagnostic test for a fool. Are you ready? Let's see, we're gonna do some diagnosis. See if we find any fools in us. The fool tries to adjust the truth so he does not have to adjust. The fool tries to adjust the truth, tries to work around it. The problem with the fool, it's never here. It is not my fault. It is not my problem. Somebody else is stupid. Somebody else did it wrong. Somebody else has got wrong information. I did my part. I did what I'm supposed to. No. We're talking about you and your attitude and your rebellious spirit and the way you push back. God says that person is a fool. Now here is the worst part about the message. Are you ready for the worst part? Yeah. This is the greatest tension. This is the most difficult thing to, the most difficult reality about this. You can do 1,000 wise things in a row and then do 3 foolish things and wipe away 90% of all that wisdom bought you. Let me say that again. You can do 1,000 things right in a row, but just a little bit of foolishness can wipe most of it out. You can take 20 years to build a house, but you can burn it down overnight. You can invest in something and then do 3 stupid things and the whole thing is gone. And that is part of the difficulty that we're going to face, like Solomon. And here's what is written in Ecclesiastes 10:1. Dead flies make a perfumer's oil stink, so a little foolishness is weightier than wisdom and honor. So you spend a lot of years sowing into your kids. And man, I mean, you're walking with them, you're disciplining them the right way, you're tight. And then you just, they get a little bit older and you just kind of let go. And things begin to deteriorate. And now the relationship's not good. Now there's a lot of rebellion. And you did a lot right at first, but then you let go, dude. You invested a lot in your marriage at first, and it was really good. But then, you got busy and you got lazy or whatever you got. And now the thing is like it's falling apart. You're like, what happened? Yeah, it doesn't matter that you poured a bunch of wisdom in because today you decided not to use wisdom. And so it's backfiring on you. I've known people, like people in my actual life, they're on fire for Jesus Christ. Like they're walking with him, what I'm saying? They're drinking deeply of his words in the Bible. They're tight, man. And then something will come up and they'll just drop their relationship with God for 3 months. And then like all these snakes are getting into their life and deteriorating their family. And they're getting into all kinds of sin. And dude, it's a tidal wave. It is a tsunami barreling down on their life. And they're like, what happened? Thought I was seeking God. Yeah, you were. You were seeking God. But all it takes is a little bit of foolishness. All it takes is a few moments. And see, it's not intuitive to us. We think, I've been smart, I've been wise. Hey, precious, I know you have. But now, today, is Jesus the source of your wisdom now? For right now, for all of your contexts now. Are we recognizing and owning that I need God's wisdom to see through the fog of life every day? Am I recognizing, God, I need your wisdom for my finances. I need your wisdom for my business. I need your wisdom for my marriage. I need your wisdom for how I interact with that coworker. I need your wisdom to know what I should think about this opportunity coming up later on this year. I need your wisdom, God. I'm not just wise on my own. Even if I've done wise things, I need your wisdom now. That's what I wish Solomon would have understood. So here's 2 principles that will keep us from a bitter end. If the mighty fall, these are 2 of the ways they do it. Number 1, foolish people pretend they won't reap what they sow. Foolish people pretend that they won't reap what they sow. Remember what the Lord said to Solomon in verse 10? He warned Solomon specifically about worshiping other gods. But Solomon did not listen to the Lord's command. So now the Lord said to him, since you've not kept my covenant and disobeyed my decrees, I will surely tear the kingdom away from you and give it to one of your servants. Solomon, dude, it's cause and effect. What do you think? It was God's blessing on you that made any of it possible. If you, as the leader of these people, turn away from him, of course the blessing is going to evaporate. That was always going to happen. Foolish people also are foolish when they expect to reap a lot when they've sown little. I expect to reap a lot. I didn't sow very much, but I expect to reap a lot. So this sowing and reaping, right? This is like a farming idea. This is a big idea in the Bible. Meaning whatever I plant, that's the sowing, I'm going to reap something from it. That's the harvesting. And so we're saying some people, we shouldn't just say we are foolish when we say, I'm gonna plant a little bitty thing, but then expect a great big harvest. And I know that's partly shaped in our generation because Google's free and Facebook is free. And so we just kind of get this entitlement of like, everything should be free, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, God says, no, this is the pattern I've put into the earth. You sow and then you reap. And if you sow a little, you're gonna reap a little. If you sow a lot, you're going to reap a lot. And he says to Solomon, if you sow stupidity, you're gonna reap destruction. That's just what's gonna happen, Solomon. So listen, if you know someone with, just an incredible business, well, dear heart, it's because they sowed into that business for a long time. Like it was hard work. If you know somebody with a great marriage, the reason it's great is because they worked on it again and again, and they were humble, and they apologized, and they did all kinds of things that other couples don't want to do, but they did. If you know someone that's got great relationships with their kids, it's because they work at it. It's because they prioritize it, and they don't do other things so that this thing can thrive. If you know somebody who has great grades, most of the time it's because they're working really hard. Dude, it's just sowing and reaping, man. If you know somebody that is close to God, dude, they didn't just win the Jesus lottery. Like they invested in their relationship with him, and then they were close. That's how that whole thing works, sowing and reaping. But the fool says, nah, don't worry about me. I'll find another way. I don't need to go by the principle that God says is operative in the world. I'll just find my other way around it. Thank you. This literally happens, okay? So I don't want you to be offended. In case you think I'm talking about you, I'm not. I'm talking about a general thing that happens so often in my life that I can just give you one example and it will apply to multiple people. So sometimes people will come over to my house and my wife and I, we'll talk about marriage stuff to them. Okay, like a couple will come and they're having problems. They're like, Carter, we're having these problems. What should we do? And we'll give them a little bit of feedback. And, we'll meet once or twice. And then usually after about 2 times, the guy will look up and look me in the face and be like, cool, are we done? And I'm like, bro, I'm sure you understand maybe some concepts a little bit deeper, but here's the problem. You sowed foolishness into your marriage for 5, 10, 15 years, meaning you're treating each other like junk. You weren't respecting one another. You weren't honoring one another. You're speaking death to one another. You weren't prioritizing the things that should be prioritized. You had a ton of conflict for 5, 10, 15 years. It doesn't go away with 2 because it's not even about what you know, it's about what you do. So why don't you go home now for the next 5 years and practice the things we just talked about? Because my friends, that's what wisdom is. Wisdom doesn't know it, wisdom does it. Solomon knew it. Solomon knew what to do. He just didn't do it. That was the whole doggone problem. So whatever we do, we've got to count on the fact that I've got to actually put the seeds in the ground. That's the only way the harvest is going to happen. Foolish folks, when we're foolish, guys, we just don't want to do it. We don't want to get the job done. We're so wimpy. We're so just like just little kids, little toddlers. Ecclesiastes 10:15, the toil of a fool so wearies him that he does not even know how to go to a city. This is funny if you didn't know. That's supposed to be funny. That means as soon as you ask the fool to do something, it's so wearying to them that they're just like, oh, but I don't want to, that's so hard, oh. You ever seen a kid do that? Well, the Lord says that's what a lot of you do. Sometimes it's not just a little kid. Sometimes it's a big kid. Everything is so hard, oh, I just can't get it done. Just get it done, man. Just get it done, just do it. 10:18, through indolence, the rafters sag, and through slackness, the house leaks. Can we just have a revival of do the thing? All right? Like go home and make the call and write the email and have that conversation and do whatever you've got to do. And sometimes like the Lord is even prompting us. How many are ready for level 2 application? So if you're not a new Christian, you're not a non-Christian, you've been doing this for a while, let me give you some stuff here, okay? That means sometimes the Spirit of God, Spirit of Jesus is prompting us. in our hearts. He's bringing things to mind. And it's not like there's a ghost that appears in front of you, but it's popping up in your brain. Stuff like, hey, you should sign up for one of those summer suppers. You should go down to Care and Prayer after this whole thing is done. You should have that conversation. You should go home and fix that thing you've been saying you were gonna fix. You just need to get on this thing and make it happen. When the Spirit of God is prompting us, do it. Like that's sowing, you know what I'm saying? He's not gonna keep prompting us. You're like, why don't I hear God? Some of you second level people, why don't I hear God anymore? Well, how much of the stuff that he already told you have you done? Because I just find that he starts to get real quiet when I don't do the things he already said I was supposed to do. Well, fools just count on something magically happening. And it just doesn't normally work like that. Okay, so I'm gonna meddle for a second. Can I meddle? Meddle, that's like preacher code for I'm gonna get in your business in an uncomfortable way, okay? So some of you, and I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, you've been hurt. Like you've had your heart broken from people, and so you never ask anybody out on a date. You never ask, you wanna go hang out, you just wanna have some fun, you wanna go somewhere. You just don't do that anymore. Even if the Spirit of God were to start to bring to mind, hey, I know you've been hurt, but there's a lot of people out there. I know you've had your heart broken by 4 people, but can I just encourage you, there's 3.5 billion other candidates out there. Dude, maybe just take a mulligan and just keep sowing. Just keep going, you know what I'm saying? And I know it's scary, but hey, that would be sowing to the Spirit. That would be obeying a prompting of God if that's what he's telling you to do. And you say, Carter, that's easy for you to say, you got a hot wife. That's true, I do have a hot wife. And God gives me other ways that I need to obey the promptings of the Spirit. But are you obeying the promptings? Because that's wisdom. What is wisdom today? Not what do I know, what's wisdom today? Fools pretend that they won't reap what they sow. And that's where we need to be careful, my friends, because we forget this. You know this, but then it's not gonna be many days and you're gonna forget that this is important, that we need God's wisdom to see through the fog every day. Let's do one more. Foolish people think prominence is proof of success. Foolish people think prominence, if you have a lot of likes, if you're the leader person, if you're kind of like YouTube famous, got any YouTube famous people here? If you're kind of all that at work, if you're like the sales lead, if you're the person that everybody kind of looks to as like, yeah, they're significant. The writer says, be careful, prominent people, because just because the world applauds you does not actually mean you're successful in heaven's eyes. It doesn't mean you're doing much right at all necessarily. Listen to what he says. He says, here's a piece of bad business I've seen on earth, an error that can be blamed on whoever's in charge. Immaturity is given a place of prominence, while maturity is made to take a back seat. I've seen unproven upstarts riding in style, while experienced veterans are put out to pasture. Hey, listen, if you feel put out to pasture, that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with your success in God's eyes. And if you feel really prominent, neither does that. Right? So let's just own that, man. Let's just own that there's a danger with prominence. The danger is if you're kind of always in charge, you kind of landed someplace that was really important, you can trick yourself into thinking, I'm right. I'm just right. Isn't that what Solomon thought? I'm just right, dude, I'm Solomon. What am I gonna do wrong? I'm the wisest dude on earth. I'm just right. And when we're the leader, or when we're influential, or we're the one with all the stars, we be like, hey, look, I'm kind of used to being right. I'm probably right in this case, probably more right than some of the rest. There's a danger there, because in your rightness, you're gonna be far less inclined to say, but what if I only used to be right? What if I haven't visited my God lately to find out if I'm still walking in wisdom, still doing the things that he wants me to do? So dear, precious, prominent people, there's a danger when we think we're all that, because we might not be all that at all. And sometimes even what we're doing, it's not really as significant as we think it is. David Letterman, many of you know, he retired, and this is what he wrote as he kind of got out of TV world, and he was doing some reflecting. This is what he wrote about it. He says, You believe that what you're doing is of great importance and that it's affecting mankind wall to wall. And then you get out of it and you realize, oh, well, that wasn't true at all. It was just silliness. And when that occurred to me, I felt so much better. And I realized I don't think I care that much about television anymore. I feel foolish for having been misguided by my own ego for so many years. Isn't that trippy? What is he saying? He's saying it is possible to be really celebrated, and really what you're doing is goofing around. And don't get me wrong, I like Dave, I think he's funny, but he's just having a moment of humility and saying, dude, we were just being goofy. Like that was what the whole thing was. It wasn't this big universe shifting thing. It was just being goofy. And I wonder today if there's some of us that maybe Jesus, maybe some of his buddies in heaven, maybe some of the angels, they get more comic relief out of us, you know what I'm saying, than really thinking we're all that important. Of course you're important to Jesus, but I'm just saying whatever thing you do, it's not that that's like tectonic plate shifting. It's really just that we think a lot of ourselves because we're prominent, but prominent doesn't mean we're right, and it doesn't mean we're a success. And so we have to have some humility that would say, I need to seek God's wisdom every day. Hey, it's true, it's still a warning. My friends, let's just hear it today. We can do 1,000 things right in a row, and we can still mess up most of it by doing 3 things wrong. This is supposed to create like a good kind of fear so that we would grab onto something. And we're grabbing onto Jesus himself. Now we need this point of clarification right here at the end, because I'm asking you to do something in a minute. You don't need God's just advice. You don't need his suggestions. You need God himself to be your wisdom. Like that's where the power is. And God in his mercy is willing to do that through the person of Jesus Christ. Did you know that? Like God wants to enter our lives and not just weigh in from time to time and be one person at the table. He wants to be like, I want to infect your life with my wisdom day after day after day after day. But it's like Solomon at first, not Solomon at last. See, at first, when Solomon was talking to the Lord, he wanted wisdom. He wanted to do things on God's terms. By the end, he wanted to do things on his terms. And that's really what we're talking about today, my friends. God has been waiting for some of us our whole lives to come to him and ask him for mercy. That's the wisest thing on earth we could ever do. Here's why, because you've done things wrong against humans, against God, against yourself, and you have no way to pay for it. You say, Carter, I'll use my good deeds to pay for it. No, you won't. They won't work. You were already supposed to be doing that. You need something to pay for the things you did wrong. Here's some good news. The Father has only ever loved you. He's only ever adored you. And he says, I want to give you my mercy, but you need to ask for it. You need to come to him and say, Jesus, I too, like your hope, some of you, you're like, I believe God is merciful. Like I hope he's merciful. Yeah, I know you believe that, you're right, but you need to come get it. You need to say, Jesus, I need your mercy. I need you to apply what you did on the cross to me and to my life. And when that happens, he will fill your life in a way that you have never experienced before. Not only will you have a reward in heaven eternally, you'll have him as your permanent counselor now, who even when we make mistakes can give us wise ways out of it. So this is what I want to do. I want us to bow our heads, and I want to give you the opportunity to ask Jesus to be that for you, to ask him for his mercy. You can give him all your mistakes, everything you did against people and against God. He's gonna take them and he's gonna throw them into the ocean of forgetfulness, and you will never see them again. He will never bring them up again. But this is the only real way to access his wisdom or anything else. It's to come to Jesus for Jesus. So I want to ask everyone to bow your heads, close your eyes. I'm gonna do this with you. I'm gonna pray a prayer, and I wanna ask you to just pray it in your heart. You don't need to say it. You don't need to do anything about it. Nobody's gonna be looking because everyone's gonna have their head bowed as well. And if you're ready to receive Jesus' mercy, to say, God, I'm sorry for the things that I've done, we're gonna do that together right now. We're gonna pray. And I'm gonna ask you to do something a little bold that no one will see it except me. I'm gonna ask you to raise your hand. Not to like do something religious, but to demonstrate that you're all in on this relationship with Jesus Christ. Let's pray. Jesus, we come to you and we bring you everything we've done against people, everything we've done against God. And we renounce our own wisdom as the thing we're banking everything on. We look to you for your forgiveness, for your life, for your wisdom. We ask you to forgive our sins. Be with us every day. Teach us to follow you. Take us to heaven. God, we believe that you love us, that is what you came to do, that is the joy of your heart for us to be back together again. Thank you, Jesus, for dying on the cross. In Jesus' name, amen. With every head bowed and every eye still closed, I want you to shoot up your hand on the count of 3. And I just want you to do it because I'm gonna do it. And if this is your first time, you need to demonstrate that desire for that relationship with God in kind of a public way. Let's do it right now. 1, 2, 3. Hands up. Lord, I need your mercy. Jesus, I need your mercy. Lord, I come home for your mercy. Never before. God, I'm asking today for your mercy and forgiveness, and now I'm clean. I'm white as snow before the Heavenly Father because of what Jesus did on my behalf. And I thank you that I've got all of you. I don't have a little of you, I have all of you. I have your life, I have your wisdom, I have your fellowship. God, thank you that you'll never leave me. Thank you that you'll take me home with you forever. Invade my life, God. Teach me to be all yours. In Jesus' name, well done. All those hands raised. Let's give everybody a round of applause. Welcome home, welcome home, welcome home. Great job.